Hey guys, it's Stephen here, back with another video. I'm going to try and dive into that shit show from yesterday yet again, because we have to keep talking about it. It's there, it's a thing that we're going to have to deal with and front up and face. But before I go too far, I want to say thank you to OneFootball for continuing to be an excellent source of information, for continuing to sponsor this channel, and continuing to be a wonderful app. It's fantastic, as you know by now if you watch this channel. It's brilliant. I've been banging on about it for absolutely ages, like at least a couple of years now. Go and download it, help this channel, help yourself to OneFootball. It's fantastic, in the link in the description below. But today we're going to talk about 5 things that we learned from that game, because we're going to have to talk about it. We're going to have to, because it isn't going anywhere, and it seems to be slapping us in the face. I've been on 5 Live this morning as well talking about it, so I'm kind of pumped up and ready to talk about this game, sadly. But first thing I'm going to talk about is I think that the title is actually gone. Now, I know fight until the end, all that kind of stuff, and I agree we will fight until the end, but if I was to take a kind of rational, logical prediction based off the current trends and forms, all that kind of stuff, I would say it's a task simply too big for Manchester City Football Club at the moment. Now, things can change, I agree, but I'm going to say why I don't think that they will. Now, this is not me being negative. Honestly, I'm just trying to be pragmatic about this conclusion, really, and look at the bigger factors and then make a judgment based on that. I'm trying to separate myself essentially away from the emotion of being a fan to try and come to this conclusion. I don't think it's illogical, mainly because I think Liverpool are a different beast. Now, everyone goes, Liverpool are going to bottle it. Now, I think that's been the case in previous years where Liverpool haven't been quite ready for a title challenge. They've got there via emotion, via energy, via momentum. And what's happened in the previous season, in the following season, is that when they come close and bottled it, they basically just dropped off massively and got back into the pack below the title challenges and not been anywhere near good enough. That hasn't happened this season because this team are actually the real deal. They are better. Now, I know Liverpool have got a lot of luck and all that kind of stuff, but this is still a better team than the one that we've usually associated with being the bottlers. They're not. They're just better. They've lost one game in like a year and a half or something like that. Something stupid like that. They are not going to go anywhere, and they are not going to drop. I think even if they drop 11 points throughout this season now, can you really see Manchester City being perfect until that moment? I can see City dropping more points, which means Liverpool would have to drop more points plus 11, which I just can't see, sadly. It seems almost insurmountable, this huge task that we got in front of us. And I come to the conclusion now, basically, that the title for Manchester City, it's probably just too far. Having said that, all we can do is keep trying to win and see what happens, and you never know, they could have a weird breakdown. We could win a few games in a row and get it back to like 4 or 5 points, and then all of a sudden, you know, things change, and the mentality of football, it can change. It is possible, but it just seems too big a task, in my humble opinion, especially when you consider the next point, our finishing has gone to pot. It's so frustrating watch us be not that good in general, but then still create chances and still struggle to put the game to bed. Because Man City should have put that game to bed yesterday. Even though we weren't anywhere near our best, when you look at key moments, we think we should have won that. We should have won that. Liverpool on my mind there, clearly. I know, obsessed, whatever. Newcastle had 6 shots and 3 on target and scored 2 of them. Manchester City had 24 shots, 9 on target, and we scored 2. One was a worldie from Kevin De Bruyne. And it wasn't just the fact that they were all blocked or anything like that. We missed some absolute sitters. Now, the ones for me, I remember Bernardo Silva coming up and he scuffed an absolute, like it was a gilt-edged chance from like 10, 11 yards out. A terrible finish, dragged it wide. It didn't even work the keeper or anything like that. I remember a Foden kind of like scuffing a header kind of down into nowhere, totally unmarked in the centre. And then right at the end, obviously the most notable miss was Raheem Sterling's after an absolute textbook ball from Kevin De Bruyne. From a forward of his calibre, that's a goal. It should be a goal. And that's the kind of moment where seasons can basically be decided on, and they show that we're not really clinical enough in front of goal, and it's happened consistently throughout Guardiola's reign, and he's been frustrated about this element. Now, I know teams miss chances, all teams miss chances, and we always think our team misses more chances than most because we pay attention to the whole game and not just the highlights. Highlights don't usually show all the misses, but this team is prolific, it is wasteful in front of goal, and it's something that it's going to basically affect us, because even though we didn't play well yesterday, we were better than Newcastle throughout the course of the game. Of course we were. We had 77% possession. We had a ton more shots, as you'd expect, but we just did not take our chances. Where you got someone like Newcastle, 3 shots on goal on target, scored 2 of them. That has to change. And also, everything is slow. Like, it's gone slow. It's like watching Manchester City in slow motion. I've said a few times now on the channel, recently, it feels like we're watching Manchester City do it. This is a team doing an impression of Manchester City. It feels that way. I was browsing Twitter this morning and someone posted a link to that goal against Arsenal, the counter-attacking one, which Leroy Sané finished away at the Emirates, where we were passing it around the back for ages, and I thought, wow, the fluidity, the movement, the pace, the precision in that play. I can't remember the last time I saw that. Well, I think it was the Spurs game, the 2-2 at the start of the season. Loads of energy, loads of direction, loads of pace and endeavour. We're nowhere near that. We're absolutely nowhere near that level. And we need to find a way to get back to that level if you want to... Basically, if you want to discover the real Manchester City. At the moment, it feels like even the ball's been kicked softer. Does that make sense? I feel like passes are like, roll it across to him, roll it across there. It's not been zipped into feet and the first touch and the movement and all that kind of stuff. And you start to think, why is that? Now, usually when it's one or two players out of form, you can just say, well, it's just maybe that disrupts the rhythm. But I think it's a whole bunch of players. And I think, in general, it's affecting our precision, our passing. We're not keeping the ball in tight spaces anywhere near as good as we usually do, and it's the whole collective. It's not just Mendy. What I'll quickly say about Mendy, I'm going to interject this point, is like, I know I said Mendy last week, we've got a point where we start to question him. I think that's fair, but one thing I will say is at least Mendy has got an excuse. He might not be good enough anymore, he might not be, but he's definitely not the player he was 2 years ago, but at least he has an excuse to be inconsistent and maybe lacking belief in himself given all the injuries. What's the excuse for the rest of them? What's the excuse for Gabriel Jesus, Mahrez, even David Silva? Even De Bruyne is still not his very best. What's the excuse for those guys? Stones as well. They haven't got one, whereas at least Mendy has one. So everything from everyone is cautious and apprehensive, and it's just not showing that zip. But though the weird moments when we do actually up the pace, and we did for like 10-15 minutes yesterday, we actually break through. Yeah, that, for example, that chance for Bernardo Silva, the Foden head and all that kind of stuff, when we actually do up the pace, we can create chances. The pace has gone, the intensity has gone, and that's what's affecting us. Also, finally, play Foden. Not finally, actually, there's another one after this. I'm losing count. Foden, play him. He's good. He's a good footballer. Even though he didn't do loads when he came on yesterday, what I think he noticeably did is he upped the tempo. He wants the ball. He plays with the same intensity that a fan does because he is a fan of the team. He's also shown that he's kind of good enough. I think David Silva had a couple of okay moments yesterday, but in general, he looked as lost as everyone else on that pitch. And Foden, what he does bring at very least is space for De Bruyne to create. I noticed yesterday that Kevin De Bruyne had much more of the ball because Foden was pulling defenders this way and that way. Foden was looking to try and break past the forwards. He was looking to try and receive the ball from the defenders. Foden was basically showing for the ball, showing that energy, that desire to press as well, that we seem to be lacking at the moment. Foden has to get a go. He has to start playing some football because he's fantastic. He's a fantastic footballer. He cares about this club. And I think he's got the energy that we need. And hopefully some of that will rub off on some of the players. As it is at the moment, it's coming off for 20 minutes and it's hard to really stamp your authority on the game. Foden isn't the kind of player that you can just bring on as an impact sub, really. It can be useful, but like David Silva and so, they need to get a feel for the game, get the rhythm going, and then eventually play into it. I think he's warranted a go soon, and fingers crossed he should get it. And finally, lower our expectations. I think this season, personally, I've learned that I've got to basically not expect miracles. I feel like the last 2 years we've seen an astonishing amount of football that's been incredible for Manchester City. 198 points, records broken everywhere. And usually when you get to the very, very top, where do you go from there? Well, sometimes the only way is down, sadly. And I think this season is the inevitability of everything that's come before it. I think we're always going to have a season where it's a little bit of a fallow season where we're not quite as good. We'll still, I'm sure we'll still get 85 plus points, but it's just not going to be the standards. And I think that's okay. I think we have to accept that this was inevitable at some point, given the players leaving the club and all that kind of stuff, given the injuries. As I said a million times on the channel, Kompany leaving, lack of a leader, Laporte out, so we're two centre-backs down. Fernandinho's energy's lost in midfield, but he's learning the role there. We've got a tombola situation at left-back where players have been randomly picked to play there. So we've got rotating right-backs. We've got two centre-backs that were actual centre-backs in Garcia, God, he should play, shouldn't he? Otamendi and Stones out of form. Then we've got a new centre midfielder trying to learn the role, not quite as good yet. And he's also been injured as well, Rodri. And then we've got David Silva a year older. We've got Aguero a year old who's lost form a little bit. Basically, I think we need to have peace with the season. I found my peace of it. I'm not expecting lows this year. I know we should always expect much, but I think in general, I'm giving up hoping that this is going to be a miraculous season. And I'll always believe that we can do it. And I believe we can do it. I just don't expect us to. That's a very different thing. And I will support the team. I'll continue to support the team, obviously, until the very end, as I always do and I always will do, because it's part of who I am and who we are as fans of the football club. But I think, in general, lowering the expectations is a logical and rational thing to do. Because I think if you see that it's that it's part of a bigger picture, then it's not too bad. I think in general, we always associate transition seasons with teams being awful because you hear the word transition from Manchester United or Arsenal being thrown about, and these are very bad teams. A very good team can still be in transition and take a bit of time where they still look very good and they slightly mask over the fact that they're in a transition, but they are basically. And I think that's what happened for Man City because we're still very good, because we've still got lots of very good players. I think we don't realise that we are in a transition, and I think we are. And I think this is the season where it's become one bit too much, and I think we can't quite keep up. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, really. Guys, that is my takeaway from yesterday's game. Go watch my match reaction video as well from yesterday if you want to, if you've not already. Go down on OneFootball. Let me know what else you learned from the game. And I think in general, just be rational, be calm. Because I think we'll be back. We'll be back. It'll be better than ever. It'll happen because we're good. In a bit.